Republicans and even some Democrats and some economists are cheering right now the new jobs report. It looks like the amount of new jobs exceeded expectations, right? So you think, wow, that's some unusual good news from the economy. Mitch, what are you going to say about this? You know, all things related to Trump are shit. And this is no different, my friends. To get right to the point, it's not, you're going to see reporting. We're already starting to see the reporting coming up. You're seeing the stock market reacting negatively because the jobs report, the headline, doesn't really tell the story. It's a headline. 172,000 jobs were created, 80,000 were expected. Somehow, we've been in what economists have referred to as a jobs recession since April. I'm sorry, guys, have a little bit of allergies. Since April 2nd, 2025, which was the village idiot Donald Trump's Liberation Day, when he started the really insane. I mean, he was doing this months and months before, but that's when his tariff stupidity really kicked in. And since then, the U.S. has added net zero jobs. None, not one. You might have had a month that was okay and a month that was terrible, but the months that were terrible exceeded the months that were okay, and there were no jobs basically added. Negative job growth because of the idiot's tariff. Then the idiot starts the war in Iran, and the price of gas at the pump goes up for Americans, and inflation is increasing exponentially, and people's just consumer confidence is decreasing exponentially, and things aren't getting any better. Then I think the suckers in the media, and I don't feel ridiculous calling them that because I can't believe they haven't learned their lesson yet after seeing this kind of stuff over and over and over again. The suckers in the media suddenly see one positive jobs report. And now you're seeing stories. Maybe these are stories that were planted or leaked by, folks in the administration in the Trump administration to try to finally get some good press about the economy. That jobs are all of the sudden magically, for some unknown reason, in the midst of a fucking illegal war that is draining the global economy, not just the U.S. economy. Somehow, in the midst of all that, an amazing jobs report appears. Wow. How did that happen? Trump must be a genius, right? Maybe he was playing 4D chess while the rest of us dumbasses were just barely playing checkers. Or maybe it's not what it seems. You see, there were a lot of jobs added. The expectation was around 80,000. But most of those jobs, or many of those jobs, were added in the hospitality industry. Let me pull up this article from the BBC. BBC was sort of the first, mainstream media outlet, even though it's not a U.S. outlet, to kind of report on this. But you're going to see this. You're going to see this in the hours and the days to come as this jobs report becomes less important. Hospitality jobs boom as U.S. prepares for the World Cup. You see, what happened is, here in the U.S., there's lots of hiring that's happened over the last month. Probably much of it is temporary hiring because the cities that will be hosting World Cup matches expect a massive increase in tourists in hotel rooms. So that's going to benefit hotels that have large hotels with lots of employees that have had to increase staff and increase hours for staff. As the temporary World Cup games come to the country. It also includes restaurants in New York City, restaurants in Los Angeles, that are hiring staff, again, probably temporary staff, to accommodate their expectation that they're going to have a lot more customers for the next month or so, and they're going to need to accommodate them. Except there's also a little bit of a wrinkle, even in that very short-term, potentially positive economic news. We'll find out when we find out, because there's no way to know, because the Trump administration keeps everything under wraps. They lie about everything, and we won't know until we see the stadiums, our stadiums here in the World Cup, here in the United States during the World Cup matches. But people are afraid to come to the U.S. right now. Tourists are afraid to come to the US. They're afraid they're going to get arrested and detained by the ICE Gestapo. They're afraid if they're going to get hassled at customs when they come into the country, to the nation, and get detained for 3 or 4 hours because there's something on their social media, on their Instagram account that the village idiot Donald Trump might not like. And Trump's Gestapo agents at the airport might stop them and might detain them for 4 hours, even if they don't detain them for 4 months. But that could happen too. Or they could just get turned around as soon as they get here and sent right back to their home countries. So tourism across the board is way down. The tourist industry is drowning. Las Vegas has had its worst year ever in the history of Las Vegas, right? I mean, tourism and all our U.S. tourist cities and states that rely on tourism are suffering exponentially because of Donald Trump and his ridiculous immigration policies. So it remains to be seen, because again, we're not seeing the data yet, if the hotel rooms are really going to be filled during the World Cup matches, if the restaurants are really going to be busy during the World Cup matches. And I honestly don't think we're going to know until we hear from employees, small business owners, restaurant owners, because they'll tell us the truth, and employees speaking off the record at hotels. Because I can't imagine the large hotel chains, the conglomerates, whether, if I'm sure the CEOs from those large hotel chains probably have been threatened by the U.S. government, probably pressured by the village idiot, or they're friends with the village idiot, right? Or they're somehow benefiting from the village idiot Donald Trump being president. I can't imagine them allowing their employees to tell us if their hotel rooms are vacant when the World Cup gets here. But we'll hear from the employees. There's too many of them. We'll know. We'll hear from people staying in the hotels. We'll hear from reporters, because they're going to fly in to the cities and towns where the World Cup is going to happen, or the places that are going to be near where the World Cup is going to happen. They'll know if there are people there, and they'll go to the bars and restaurants as well. So maybe it will be a temporary economic boom for real. Maybe people are as afraid as they are to come to the United States right now. Maybe they won't be. Maybe the World Cup is enough of a draw that we'll see them, like really see them, but maybe not. Maybe restaurant owners and like bar owners in New York City, pub owners who, bulked up on staff in preparation for the World Cup, maybe they'll be complaining to the local New York news affiliate that these World Cup games are going on and there's nobody there. There's Americans there, and they would normally come and they were prepared for that, but they didn't need 12 extra waiters and waitresses and 7 extra bartenders, and because the crowds just never showed up. I mean, we'll find out. But irrespective, these positive job numbers are bullshit. They are it's a blip. It's an economic blip. And I think we're seeing, let me just show you guys. You're seeing the stock market. Let me just get back to it over here. See if I can get to it. In decline right now. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down almost 500 points. The S&P 500 is down just over 150 points. The NASDAQ is down almost 1,000 points. And when I read some of the reporting about why NASDAQ is down, it was some of the chip makers that aren't specifically NVIDIA and related to AI chips. Those, they seem to be pulling the whole NASDAQ down, but I don't know if they're pulling down the S&P 500 and if they're pulling down the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So what's pulling that down? Perhaps inflation is up. The Feds are going to have to increase rates again. They're not going to be able to tackle inflation because unemployment is still at 4.3%. They might do it because Fed Chair Jerome Powell is gone, and the village idiots, new buffoon Fed chair is in place. So they probably will decrease rates anyway. We'll see what happens, and then we'll see how that goes. But clearly, Wall Street as a whole kind of sees the writing on the wall right here, because you normally wouldn't have a great jobs report like this and and you wouldn't see things take off on Wall Street. So, take that with a grain of salt. Just a short recorded post for today. We'll get more throughout the day. Please like and subscribe if you're joining us on Substack. And let's get this up to 1,000 subscribers. Same thing on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, and let's get these numbers going. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one recorded episode at a time. That's how we get through this Trump administration. We just chunk through it 1 day at a time. And before we know it, it's going to be November. The midterms will be over. And we know that at least there'll be some congressional guardrails in place to stop the validity of Donald Trump. And then before we know it, we're going to look back on this madness in 2028 after the election. And we're going to think, how the fuck did we make it? But we'll make it. See you soon.